The most recent excavations in Turkey reveal traces of a settlement that existed around 11,000 years ago. This fact makes the settlement one of the oldest in the world. Judging by the artifacts found, primitive people who only used stone and bone tools had tremendous artistic talents. According to Professor Necmi Kirula, archaeologists discovered a large number of unusual sculptures during excavations. A significant part of these statues represent people. Using a special execution technique, similar artifacts were previously found at the prehistoric site of Göbekli Tepe, which is also in Turkey, but the analysis of the sculptures at both sites showed some differences. For example, in Göbekli Tepe most of the sculptures found show animals, many of them are predators preparing to attack. The Karakorum Tepe site is dominated by anthropomorphic statues. One of the best examples of statues found in Karakorum Tepe. Professor Carroll names a sculpture that depicts a man with a leopard jumping on his back. The scientist admits that, since the scene itself is unique, no reliable explanation has been found for such an act. This may suggest that the author of this work of art really had phenomenal artistic talent and was looking at the world. Another assumption is that people's attitudes toward animals 11,000 years ago were completely different than they are today, while archaeologists believe that the relationship between humans and predators at the time was indeed peaceful, and the plot rarely reflects aggression who deserve to be immortalized in stone. Another important and fascinating find in Karakorum Tepe was a round building 23 meters in diameter. The excavation supervisor notes that most of it was carved into the rock and went to a depth of 5.5 meters from the surface, meaning that this structure was built through the efforts of many civil engineers. Commenting on the results, Professor Carroll added that the data obtained are clear evidence that the artistic abilities of mankind were somewhat developed during the Neolithic at a specially organized official exhibition. These unique artifacts were discovered last year by German archaeologists in one of the caves on the southern German Swabian Alb and have only now been presented to the public. The artifacts found are tools made from mammoth tusks. They were created by our prehistoric ancestors about 38,000 years ago. When presenting the new finds, experts emphasize that these prehistoric chisels represent a kind of whole toolset. They are made from the hardest parts of a mammoth's tusk. These items were used to work on softer bones, as well as to work wood and horns. The state of 14 to 22 centimeters of tools means that they have been used frequently and intensively. In the southern part of Peru, 18 kilometers northwest of the city of Puno, there is a place called Silastani, best known for the fact that there are chops, ancient stone structures in the form of towers. It is believed that these are tombs dating back to the 13th and 13th centuries, built in the 14th centuries during the era of the Kola Kingdom, the oldest and largest state of the Aymara Indians, who were conquered by the Incas as early as the 15th century. The fact that they buried their nobles in chalpas is a fact, but whether these towers were originally built as tombs, some researchers doubt. The Aymara buried their dead in these buildings in an embryonic position, the towers symbolizing the inside of the female womb, as the Indians believed. Buried in the position of an embryo in the lap of a woman, is said to have continued on his way into another world. At the burial, the deceased should be provided with food, as well as the necessary utensils in the form of clay pots and other household items. Surprisingly different in this area, there are many similar burials, but only individual towers are lined with stone, with surprisingly high-quality workmanship. The rest of the buildings are arbitrarily made of stone or generally have a different shape and appearance. It seems that much later, more curved buildings originated, and these were built to imitate more old structures. These towers are believed to be blast furnaces in which representatives of a much older civilization smelted metal, and much later, when they came to these lands, the Aymara Indians began to use them as funerary objects. Although this version may be incorrect, only burial towers for the nobility were qualitatively better, and less noble and common residents were already buried in simpler class buildings. India is an amazing country with a history stretching back thousands of years, a multitude of unique historical and architectural monuments, interesting culture and numerous religious cults from ancient times attracted the attention of many travelers. This country hides many more secrets, and one of them is the Sahasralinga complex, known for having about 1,000 lingas carved by Shiva in the river and on its banks. When summer comes and the water level in the river goes below the water, various mysterious figures appear, become both geometric and animals and symbols uncovered, signs and structures carved from stone since time immemorial. Strange as it may seem, no one has ever studied the stone wonders of the Sahasralinga complex. Although the complex is known to be very popular with tourists for a long time, historians have known the complex simply assigned a religious purpose and for sure forget it. In some places the thorough and perfect workmanship of stone is astonishing, although this can be attributed to the water, because for centuries she has been polishing the stone figures with the flow. But one question remains. What purpose these artifacts had? Neither archaeologists nor historians nor ethnographers can give a reasonable answer. The locals do not deny that this complex is very old. The Hindus are not particularly interested in the question of how and by whom it was made. They consider the Sahasralinga complex as a creation of the gods. In the summer, the Shamala River turns into a stream, and all the masterpieces of Sahasralinga appear on the surface of the water. Of particular interest is a stone monolith, which looks like part of an unknown mechanism, for which this structure was used. Scientists are still at a loss. Alas, the artifact came to us in a broken state, so you can only imagine its original shape. And on the territory of the complex you can find figures of regular shapes and very different sizes. But looking at them it becomes clear that they in this case work not with hammer and chisel but with more advanced tools and also use more advanced technologies. But what they were we can only guess. Egyptologists from the University of Bonn have a history dating back to the 4th millennium BC. The rock inscription dated to the 4th century BC was deciphered. The result turned out to be a real sensation, an inscription discovered by German scientists and Egyptologists during an archaeological expedition on the territory of modern Sudan 2 years ago. As it turned out, relates to the pre-dynastic period of the ancient Egypt. It points to the time of the reign of the pharaoh King Horus. They discovered it near the ancient city of Aswan. According to scientists, there are 4 hieroglyphs carved on a rock in the desert area of Wadi Abu Sabira, on which it says the property of the king of the scorpion. Through the joint efforts of Egyptologists from Germany and Egypt to decipher the rock signs and determine the age, this topographical index was established in the 4th millennium BC, created around 3070 BC. More precisely, one of the hieroglyphs in the form of a circle made scientists believe that they symbolize a settlement. It was characteristic with a dark combination of signs to denote a settlement in Egypt. It denoted a territory that was subordinate to a certain ruler or belonged to a center, for example a temple complex. This discovery is of particular interest in the history of the development of means of communication because mankind was only just beginning to master writing at the time, since the art of writing as the climax of the achievement of modernity was. Egypt, as historians suspect, the first territorial state in the world. The rediscovery will help investigate the socio-historical aspect of the colonization process of the Nile Valley at the end of the 4th and beginning of the 3rd millennium.
What's going on? This is Cotton. Be sure to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, because subscribing makes you feel good.